Hey Ted, how are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent.
Good to hear that.
You look good. You got a good smile. You look
Thanks.
healthy.
Yeah, I am. You know, uh, I've got one of my docs right here online, actually. He's how far away are you from like Malibu area?
Oh,
Probably.
oh, sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
I'm in Westlake Village, so it's about 30 minutes.
Well, I didn't know if everyone else would know where Westlake Village was, so I was just picking like the biggest town near you. Miguel, how far away is that from you?
Yeah, that's on a good day at 2.5 hours. On a bad day, 3.5.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Coming from San Diego.
it becomes a realistic drivable experience. You know what I mean? Whereas that's just it's a plane flight for me, but it was worth it. I was grateful for the plane flight when I needed it. Good to see you,
Awesome.
Rod. Look at how blue sky it is out there for you.
I love the shirt too. You're muted there, Rod.
Every time it
Beautiful.
gets cold,
Rod,
they
There we go.
Hey, bud.
Yeah, I'm out at the airplane hangar that you haven't come and visited yet.
No, I mean, I gotta just, do it and just make a reason to do it, kind of thing, I like to get out and about. I'm doing a guy. What was that?
Oh, I said I'm about 30 minutes southwest of the Tucson airport, so it's an easy trip out here.
Yeah, no. You're at an airplane hangar. We gotta negotiate 30 minutes away, and we take some, like, I don't know, a helicopter flight or something like that in. I want the full experience to the private hangar. I'm not at the private jet money yet.
Yes.
Because I see jets like yachts and boats and even sports cars, which so many men disagree with me. But I feel like there's such niceties. Why bother owning them when you could just do like a timeshare on them? Like, it's just, charter a plane versus own the damn thing, because it's just so
Agreed.
expensive. That's why I don't own property in Maui, because it's like, unless I'm investing into something for it to make me money, I feel like it's quite ridiculous and a waste. And I got to tip my hat to the guy that turned me on to that. Was here. These notes came from a New Year's. I read this through a New Year's experience, and Tony Robbins, of all people, was talking about money because he was starting a business in that division, and he just talked about the value of that, and he used a charter plane as an example instead of owning one. I was like, brilliant. I was like, then why do I own a boat? Because and then, but everyone does it. Howard's a buddy of mine and George's, and he called me for advice on a boat. So I gave it to him, and then he bought something 3 to 4 times more expensive than what I suggested. So it's just like, sometimes your buddies don't want to hear what you have to offer.
Well, Howie bought that
Ted,
boat. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what I was going to say is I sold my last airplane a couple of years ago. I fly helicopters, gyrocopters, and airplanes, and I'm down to a German-made gyrocopter that costs less than 100 grand. And I'm like the old fat guy on the weekend with his Harley.
Totally. And here in Hillsboro, Oregon, we have a huge air show, and those are always out there, and we go check them out. Because it's technically a something craft. It's not a manufactured, you built it. So it's classified different, right? Is that the same thing you have? Technically a kit?
Yeah, experimental.
Experimental?
Yep, technically.
Yeah. My buddy right now just flew in his new helicopter from Nashville, Tennessee, all the way to Idaho.
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
In a helicopter.
In a helicopter. Yeah.
Did he have to
That's a
stop
long haul
or
helicopter.
That's crazy long time. That's a crazy long flight.
yeah, did he have to stop to gas up, or could it make
are
the
you
whole
kidding
way?
me? Of course he has to stop for fuel. Just go to the bathroom. Like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, there's no autopilot to urinate, So, hey, not to be so obtuse, but I was just like, is he doing like a depends? Like, what do you do on that stretch? Like, because,
Well,
everyone grabs the coffee to stay awake on the long flights. And then it's like, that goes right
Gotta
through you,
go.
man. You
Well,
might
on his
actually know who
helicopter,
he
though,
is. What was that, Rod?
yeah, in a helicopter, he probably didn't fly more than about 2 hours per leg, so about 300 miles.
He said he
And
went
so
too
he didn't
far
he
on
didn't
his
have
first
time
leg.
to. Oh,
He-
did he?
He
Oh,
said he
okay.
said he pushed himself too far in day one. His name's Murray Carter. He's like, if you guys watched ever Forged on Fire, he's a master bladesmith, and he's got a lot of proteges. One of his recent proteges here out of Portland won the Forged in Fire show. I think it's on a Discovery Channel or Discovery Network. I've only ever YouTubed it to see him because I buy their stuff. And yeah, he's a world-class guy, a master, and that's one of his hobbies he got into, is flying helicopters. So yeah, crazy. Well, hey, gang, there's so many great things to be blessed with and thoughtful of, and with, everyone planning for the next stage in their business. In fact, it's one of the topics I'm going to cover in my business mastery transformation with George this week, is business life cycles. But I was kind of curious because we got Miguel here. I'm going to direct that one to you, because you train a lot. You as a professor, you speak a lot. I see you doing a ton through podcasts. I'm just kind of curious, in the last 12 months, what's been one of the coolest things or unique things, or most, maybe even a trite thing that you've just seen played out, proven to be true once again? What do you think's been one of those moments for you here in 2022 that we can look into 2023 maybe better leveraging?
Well, I'll discuss one. So I I volunteered on a steering committee for an organization here in San Diego that's been around for 22 years. It's called the Cause Conference.
Cause Conference.
CAUSE. We're
Okay.
on LinkedIn. Cause Conference 2022. And the gentleman that started it, and he's got a great name. His name is Parker Pike.
It is a good name.
What a name. That's a
It's like an actor.
that's a keeper, that's like, oh, everybody knows Parker Pike, right? So Parker originated 22 years ago. I was invited to sit on a steering committee for 2022. We held an event at the University of San Diego on December 15th. And the only reason I participated was under one condition. And that is, he has led this nonprofit for 22 years.
Mhm.
And my concern with the nonprofit community is not their heart, it's their process, or
Mhm.
lack thereof,
Mhm.
right? And I'm not talking about the big philanthropic organizations that have resources. I'm talking about the thousands that are small to mid-sized, that really don't have process, don't have structure, don't have discipline.
It's pretty
And
much every pro athlete's non-for-profit, which
well,
every pro athlete starts because they get too much money. It's a great tax shelter. They want to give back to their community. It's a part of their MO, and then it's a hot mess.
Ted, but that's brilliant. That the fact that they've got the heart in the right place, I think,
Yeah.
right? The problem is they don't run it like a business.
Yeah.
And so that was reinforced to me again. And my condition for engagement was that 50% of the participants had to be for-profits with the nonprofits in the same room at the same time.
Okay, great. So
and-
you're talking about having a diverse sense of leadership. So, people don't get dogmatically positioned based on a myopic belief structure that's going to end up hurting them. So you brought diversity.
Exactly.
Uh,
We could let me talk about Wounded Warrior Homes as an example.
Yeah.
Serving the military. Great heart, great passion, lack of structure, lack of marketing plan, lack of business savvy, right?
Yeah.
So through the university, we helped them develop the marketing plan. So that was reinforced to me again. It gets reinforced every day. When
You've
I
got to
meet
have diversity in your perspective. Oh, that, for the small business owner, because you're talking about non-for-profit, let's go like really small, it usually starts as a visionary, typically, right? You've got someone who is such a visionary, they don't do good as an employee. So they kind of launched their own thing. And then you get this implementer. It's I call it the get shit done implementer. Like, then that's the, second in command, chief operating officer, that's just, taking someone's, vision and having it come to fruition, executing, implementing, whatever language you want to call it. I literally call it get shit done implementer for just to cut through the clutter. But you're talking about processes, and that
See-
very rarely comes in the first million, 2 million, 5 million, legitimately. Like they can just get decently good at selling and do that. But for them to really hit fast rate of growth and have that become a sustainable situation, they start to recognize real quick, it's time for processes. Now that I'm at 10 million, I need this company ran by more of systems and processes. And that's a different persona. By 30 million minimally, this is where the CEO is saying things like, our president that took the CEO title because it looks better on LinkedIn, but they're just finally hiring their C-suite of executives. And they're saying, hey, maybe I just need to hire a real CEO. And I'm reminded how often companies fail in that transition period from fast growth to system oriented, where they can optimize their profits and growth at the same time. Because what happens is, I'm just going to tell you what my learning curve of the year was, is once again, it's not new, but visionaries, when they start adapting, groups are usually an individual that's there to help facilitate processes. And then they go to police those processes, called a policy, to ensure it's coming to fruition. Who do they think the policies are for? The visionary. Who do they think it's for?
Everyone else.
But themselves.
But them.
So what happens is they just got enough cash and they still have enough passion and drive, but they've been doing this thing so long. They're like, yeah, but I got 5 other brilliant ideas. Let's go. And they start it's like walking around in a hut made out of hay and they're just lighting matches. You know what I mean? And it just, I know you think it's a great idea as a visionary, but what happens is the company went from simple, fast growth comes from just selling, or they're just coding their butt off, or they're whatever they do. If they're a builder, they build. If they're George, they're heal. Right. And that's what they're doing. They're just doing that. But then there's a degree of complexity that comes in when you start bringing in these processes, and your second in command, the get shit done implementer, it becomes the person putting out the fires. And so there's stress between the OGs and they can handle it. But the new guy or gal that was brought to the table is the process oriented person. Who do you think is going to be the first one kicked to the curb? The process person, because they have no skin in the game.
Right.
And most of the company's owned by the visionary who founded it. So the processor and the visionary are like oil and water. So it's this really interesting dynamic to find a way that they can get their goals in alignment. And it's a big part, I think, why we are in existence. My company exists, the business coaching consulting, is to help be a synergist, get someone how to help create a homogeneous environment so these things work together. But boy, I tell you, processes are a funny thing, because sometimes people try to apply them too early and they cost too much money to police. Right? It takes time and money to do it. And when they're small and they have yet to crack their code to get new clients, they're wasting their resources. That's the look that you usually get on perfectionists. Right? They just care about their product so much or their service so much. They're always trying to make it better, but they've yet to learn how to better sell. So anyhow, that's so Miguel's having diversity of opinions and thoughts, because they bring strategic innovation to the table. New voices and different perspectives allow them to see that. And if we ever need to, we can talk for days on examples of that. I'm talking about, how to make sure that the visionary understands their role and responsibility. The get shit done the implementer knows their roles and responsibilities, but they also can understand with a little emotional intelligence what the dynamic's going to be when they bring in people that are process oriented to facilitate the procedures within your company so it can run more without you. So if that's our 2, what's yours been, George? Looking back in the last 12 months, what's been the biggest face palm moment, looking back, greatest learning curve that we can take into 2023 as some kind of breakthrough for ourselves?
You know, I accomplished a huge goal this year, which was I documented the fullness of the training I've developed over 20 years. So I hit this major
So
goal.
your deliverable product that was only you and your brilliance locked in between your ears, you got it out of your ears. The intellectual property is out. How is it out? Is it on Keynote and PowerPoint? Is it in a Word doc? I'm just curious, like literally
like
where
yourself,
it's
we
at.
started on VHS, and then we went DVD, and then it went digital, and then we didn't have, Kajabi or Customer Hub. Now we're on Infusionsoft with Customer Hub.
Yep, yeah, I did it, by the way, I am too, right?
Yeah, learning process, of course, the whole time. But we finished recording my module 1 through 4 series with 4 different themes. One is a concussion theme, pain theme, organs, sympathetic, parasympathetic, and then sports and strokes theme. And so now we have 4 packages basically for training, depending on what people are interested in. And so that's sitting on the shelf now, and we literally like, now what do we do?
Yeah.
I've been pouring out for 2 years creating this content.
Is that in just a recorded digital format, or have you actually gotten like workbook, worksheets, workshops? Like, have you gotten it down past just a recording of you talking?
We have the recording and we have the slide presentation. We have a play-by-play on the recording. So when I'm doing demos, it's explaining step by step on the lower thirds of what's going on. We don't have a book manual. I was trying to get transcripts off of Zoom, but it's a little wonky.
It should be within. You could dial that in. You can use third party, which I did. Trint, TRINT. I was paying for that, but then Zoom got within a reasonable percentage of accuracy if you're paying for storage online for the transcriptions.
Right.
Are you paying for the storage online?
I don't think so.
That might change the efficacy of its transcriptions, because that's a value add for people to pay for their storage. Right. Because that's another profit model for them, is like a new product. Like, oh, you have all these big recordings. Where do you want to put them? Well, pay us. We'll store it. Right. And oh, by the way, when you do it, we do free transcriptions. So if you consider doing that instead of whatever, like I got a Dropbox and Google Drive in my company, the 2 formats I'm using. But when you paid them, they do a transcription.
Okay.
But it's the usability. So, but what you're going to say was your greatest learning curve. What you learn? Yeah, the power of getting it out of your head, or getting out of your head is nice, but using is better. Where are we going with that?
Getting out of my head was a big stepping stone, and realizing, okay, now I could, for lack of better terms, I could take the business off my shoulders, and I could focus on selling the product, or creating a team to sell the product. And I'm, it's like we have the best neurology rehabilitation training in the world, bar none. So why aren't we the most famous? Why aren't we making the 100 million a year? Why aren't we making doctors around the world getting certified? And I feel we have a good package. We have a good price point that could deliver into high value business. And it all comes down to, we don't have sales and marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Very classic, right?
I'm smiling because we just did our own project. We used our own students on my own project, and I'll show you the title of the project that they delivered over 12 weeks.
Randy.
That's great.
We have great product, but our brand wasn't sharp, crisp, and our methodology was uneven. Meaning it was there were no campaigns, right? Everything seemed to be rush at the last freaking minute. And that's the life. We're a university, but we're a startup in what we do. I laugh and smile sometimes. So I just wanted to share that. Don't feel alone in that sentiment.
The broadest stroke that I have for companies that are of George's size. If you were going to say in order, to make it simple, like ABC, or 1, 2, 3, too many is the language I always use. So first is learning how to acquire new clients. In order, I'm talking about, like, if you don't do this, everything else is for naught. So 1, learning how to get new clients. Now, I personally think that's pretty easy, but that's because I've been broke as a joke, sleeping in a truck, and I paid the ultimate price in not knowing how to do that. So I learned how to get really good at that. But that's not enough, because generating revenue is not the winner chicken dinner. When I said I slept in the truck, that was my highest revenue year of my entire life. See, I didn't understand what they kept talking about that EBITDA thing.
EBITDA. Yeah.
What's that? And I thought profit meant top line revenue. So I did 2 million. So I'm a millionaire. My ego, I'm a millionaire. That's what I would say. And I'd go to my truck and I'd sleep in the truck and play Tony Robbins, Power Talk with Jay Abraham and press play. True story. And I met another guy. He told me about this. He had a restaurant business, and I just, restaurant, retail. He goes, no, it's not retail. He goes, you think it's retail? It's not. He goes, we get raw product and we have to transmutate that into something. We're a manufacturing facility. And he goes, I'll give you an example.
Wow.
The best year we ever had, that's just like yours, Ted, was it was wonderful. Like, we suddenly made a name for ourselves and things took off, and I made the most amount of revenue I ever made, but I kept the least amount of profit. And what I found out was, when I evaluated, I hired some new chefs, and then they kind of got in the coots together and they started doing the same thing, which was heavy-handed size of plates. Like, the food, the value of what you bought was off the charts. So we're losing money, but everyone loves it. So that's easy to do if you want to go broke fast, make everyone happy. And they're all going to go, I wonder what happened to that one company. It was a Thai restaurant, by the way, big chain here in Portland, Oregon. And so it's A, how to acquire a client, but B, how to acquire them a profitable client where you're making money, right? And then to make sure how to do so in a scalable manner. So everyone's using the word scale and growth interchangeably because, people do this stuff all the time. It's okay. But here's my perspective is growth, fast growth. We're talking 20, 25%. What's a university called fast growth, by the way, Miguel? When do you acknowledge a company's growing fast?
Well, it depends on whether you're speaking to entrepreneurs or you're speaking to
I'm just kind of curious for
PhDs.
you.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Well, for me, nice accelerated steady growth would be anywhere between 8 to 12% a year.
Yeah, and so that's growth, but fast growth I put north of 20.
Well, accelerated growth is that. You're correct.
Yeah, accelerated. Okay, so you call it accelerated, I'm calling it fast. So and admittedly I probably say 25% more, but when I dial down my emotions, get not emotive, I get honest about it, it's 20%, 20, north of that. And that's fast growth. So when they can hit that fast growth, that's great. But doing it short term, like, I see people that are growing fast and it's all ad based and the ads don't work any longer. And then it's just hot air. Like, it just fizzled out. Boom, boom. So I did that in my space. My learning curve was in 2004. I was like, okay, I need to find clients. And I always like to find people I already have affinity. So I loved chiropractors because they transformed my life. So I wanted to give back to that community. I found some guy who had a database. He had 30,000 names and emails of chiropractors. I thought Len Schwartz was the shit. And then, so my previous partner, Tony Robbins, worked out a deal, and then it became our JV partner. He's pimping the thing, and I sell it, and it's doing okay. We did that for a year. Then the second year we said, let's add services on so it could be profitable, because no one's making money like really selling a cornerstone program. You're making it in the back end. So we'd sell a program and train them, and that's fine. But there's no money to be had unless there's a back end. In my case, it'd be ongoing coaching, or in this case, it was done for you marketing services. So we figured out how to do that. And it was $970,000 of top line revenue per sales rep. So that's great. each industry is different. Like HVAC, I saw another one of my buddies that lives right over the river here in Washington. He said HVAC is $350,000 of revenue per employee, up to 500,000, but never below 350,000, because that's how you can lock in your 11 to 18%, right? That you want to make sure you have. So he knows, he just needs to see how many employees, what kind of revenue, and fast. He knows what a problem is. Like fast, without even knowing them. Just data always proves it. So I had this great product, and I'm telling you all this shit just to tell you this. I cracked the code for a year on how to get clients. Then I cracked the code how to get clients profitably. But then I went to this Cornerstone event. It was the big event. I paid, we got money together. We invested our time. We worked our butt off. We all wore Hawaiian shirts and came up with this company to get people to travel to Hawaii so people have a reason to leave their name and number at your booth. And we went to the Parker convention, which was the convention of the year for chiropractors. And the guy stood on stage bragging about how that year they finally cracked the code. They finally had 70,000 licensed chiropractors in the entire United States. And everyone's clapping and I'm crying. Because I already had 7,000 clients out of 70,000. I know I'm done. That was the day. That was it. I came home. I told my wife, never again, no more. Like, I'm not launching this new business. I'm not doing this product. I was going a mile wide and an inch deep on new stuff as a visionary. And I had to learn how to become a get shit done implementer. My core nature was a visionary, but I partnered with a visionary. And two visionaries, all we're doing is getting each other excited. Like two entrepreneurs in a room together, and no one's making money. You know, we're like 3-4 years. I mean, like seriously, we were in on this 2002, 2003. This is 2004, going into 2005. Like, when do you call it quits? Like, you know, making a few $1 million, but no one's getting wealthy on it. Like, do we give up? What do we do? And I was like, no, I just need to, how to get clients profitably, but in a scalable market. And so I just dropped the limiting belief of riches and niches for me in chiropractic. And we said, we're going to serve all entrepreneurs, because they call them, I need a new patient. It's called getting a new client. Yeah. They, you know, whatever it may be. And then that set us free, and that changed everything for us. Now, fast growth for us changed from, you know, 20% to 100% road to growth 3 years in a row. And that was exciting. But that came on that back of that learning curve. I had to pay that price, and that one sucked. So I'd say 1, 2, 3, how to acquire clients. Do so profitably, and do so in a scalable market. So when you hit fast growth, you don't fall on your face and you're done, right? Because then the problem with that is you might not even be making any money on that process. So very much big learning curves. And if your eye's not on that prize, you just probably don't really care about making that big of an impact on the planet. Like that being right, because most entrepreneurs, I think, are artists. Like, in their heart, they love to do a thing. They want to create a thing. I mean, I think it's one of the most divine things. Whatever your concept of divinity is, and whatever holiday acknowledges your own. If you recognize there's something greater than yourself, even if all you call it is nature, we got, at some point, we recognized when we were young, we had the greatest juice, because we let ourselves dream. And those that just dare to dream seem to be creating the real great change in the world. And then when we get a little older and we start having experiences and we go, oh, I remember when I did that, that sucked. And those become our limiting beliefs. Oh, I remember doing that. Let's not do that again, because that hurt. Oh, whatever. And that starts kind of taking your dream circle, and you narrow it down, because then you say, well, I've done this well, so let's focus here. Well, I've done this well. And the older you get, the smaller your dream circle gets, until you can face that fear and use your courage to break through it. And that's where your virtues come from. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that artist mentality, right? And I'd say most of the small business owners that are growing through that 10 million range, $50 million range, are usually founders that are artists. A significant period of time. Again, I've only had 25,000 clients, Miguel. So I wonder what this data actually is, but an entrepreneur personality type is pretty typical. They weren't A students. They were like B or C students. All the A students, we put you to work. Does that make sense? Like you hire the A student, but they're usually too cautious. And if you're not a classic entrepreneur personality type, that they've got to step outside of their comfort zone, which is usually taking risk that, makes them pucker a little bit. Where entrepreneurs are like, so what? We'll just build something even bigger and better, and we'll do it faster, right? A little bit more optimistic than most. But I imagine Miguel, I imagine George, neither of you are entrepreneur personality types. Were either of you like the, young and you were called dyslexic or ADD? They might have called you like special, but in a good way as well as in a bad way simultaneously. Did any of you guys have that look like classic childhood?
The bad way.
The bad way?
The bad way.
So you might have had that? Huh.
Definitely. For myself, very hard time in school, all the way through college. And then when I finished college, I was like, I'm never going to go to school again. And then I decided to become a chiropractor. I'm like, I got to go back to school.
I got to go back. I got to go do that thing.
And then it took the first year of just really not understanding how I learn. And then after the first year, with my wife's help, I learned by listening. I'm an auditory learner.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, I started doing well in school and everything. I wish I'd learned that much, much younger.
Oh, yeah. I wish I did too. I was bored. I was very smart. So I would take calculus and physics honors class, but I would just ditch class all the time. And I just, do good enough on the grades in the tests that carried most of the weight. I'd squeak by. I get a C in those classes, get A or B in the other ones, but where I'm pushing, but I was just bored stiff,
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm out of here. I was dating someone who was 21 years old when I was in high school. So it was like, yeah, we're going to hang out with these real adults. I was in such a hurry to grow up. And now as I got older, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I always play, John Cougar Mellencamp song for my daughter, Remy, when we get in the 9/11, and I make a point, about the segment where it says, hold on to 16 as long as you can. Changes come around real soon to make you women and men. I just play that. Right. It's just, it was a great old song about a white girl and a black guy falling in love. But they whitewashed that and didn't call him a black man. They changed it and they called him Jack. They called him Jack. But because that was too edgy back in the, what was that, 78, 9 or something like that?
The Jack and Diane song?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hoosier.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're Indiana's got that melting pot thing going on. And so, yeah, he's, but I play that for all the time. I'm like, hey, come, like, embrace it. You're 16, just enjoy it. Like, cause she beats herself up. She wants to be perfect. She wants to have great 4.0s. And I'm like, that's going to suck for you. Like, because you're in an environment to where you're allowed to be perfect, but you'll never have that the rest of your life.
Yeah.
They're giving her 4.0s. I think it's ridiculous. I was like, then you're not taking a hard enough class. She's like, I'm taking the hardest classes they got. I'm like, well, then you got to do something else that you're going to suck at. Like, this is how I talk to her. I'm like, as if you don't find something you suck at, like life's going to be really tough on you.
Kick you in the teeth.
Yeah. What's that?
It'll kick you in the teeth.
Well, I mean, but then again, I don't know. I wasn't the 4.0, but if that's how she meets her identity, I mean, that's tough. Like, because then, that's a classic stressing achiever. They're the clients of mine that are just, they're doing great, but they're not even, they're doing great. And yet everyone hangs up and they're like, hey, Ted, you got a minute? And they talk about how unfulfilled they are. And then I got to pull on my personal growth hat, right? Because we help them grow radically fast, but what's it all mean? Why am I doing it? I want to be in love again. I want to have better relationships with my kids, like something somewhere, right? Someone was asking this, latkes and vodkas and latkes or something for a Hanukkah party. And this guy, my wife said he was a surgeon of some sort at OHSU here, but I didn't know what he was doing for a living. And he was just asking about Elon Musk. And I said, well, I don't know him, but I got an Elon Musk story because he tried to recruit away this one person. But he said something really just asinine. I was like, how can you be so stupid? He said, is he just lucky? I'm like, how do you get lightning in a bottle again and again and again? Like, you don't, you don't call that luck. And what a lazy approach to that. I go, but what you're calling success, you and I are describing different things because we have our values around our family that I guarantee he sucks his dad. Like, and if you're listening to this recording, because everything's recorded anymore, Elon, like, I can't imagine, because he's got a lot of kids from what I heard. You could be literally sleeping underneath your desk for months on end, just so your staff members see that when they walked in, he was still here. That makes sense. You guys know those stories?
I've heard that. Yeah.
He would literally do that. Men that have done great things in life very rarely are great in other things. That's what experts are. They're really smart in one area, but then you could call them pretty stupid in others. Like, they get very niched out. And that's what I get a lot. Sometimes artists are so gifted in the one area of their business. They haven't gotten some fundamentals, like you were saying, marketing and selling, cornerstone, being able to bring processes. You can learn how to market and sell. You got a brand that's running because of the name. And you're mentioning one. And I got to know a little bit about that kind of stuff about giving back to those what they called wounded warriors. Because I had a client that didn't help the veterans go get their disability that they legally, ethically, and morally were entitled to. But the government just doesn't want to give out money for free. So they reject people as a default status. Like, it was just a default thing. They just reject them. And then they go, well, I guess I'm not worthy. And they go away, thinking that, okay, I guess I'll just deal with hip pain the rest of my life, or I can't hear at 60% the rest of my life. And they just think it's okay. So this company would go on their behalf and they would use their attorneys to go get everything that they had and take a little small percent. So they made, they finally got things they would have never gotten without them. And then that got me right into those non-for-profits. And I'm really critical about non-for-profits, about what percent actually makes its way. So how you do that at scale, I don't know. Like, I just saw Tim Tebow's met with him, the president. So Tim Tebow and his president and a couple other colleagues, but I pretty much talked to them too. But they're at 100% right now, but that's not, you can't do that in a scalable way. Like that's a really nice, fun thing. There goes me saying another sports guy with a non-for-profit, and it's all for the heart-centered reasons, which I asked him and others asked, and it was all based on his wife, oddly enough. Like, most of them was his wife's passions. He was passionate to serve, to be the warrior, but it was like, his wife, who I think was Miss Brazil or Miss USA or Miss Australia. Excuse my ignorance. I didn't know it until he told me, but he married one of those people. And her sister, so his sister-in-law, has some kind of special needs. So that's why he has a special needs thing. It's like something that changes you in a way physically, like you can see, oh, that person has that a mile away. So he wanted to serve those that he called MVPs, the most vulnerable people. And there are nations that judge you when you stand out like that you're not honoring them. It's pretty horrific. It's pretty ugly. So he goes to these nations and really helps people out that have not brought honor to their family because they're disabled and they're looked down on at a very heavy level. I'm like, oh, so I love what he's doing. Plus, he just happens to be speaking to the thing I'm always passionate about, was mitigating sex slavery. So he does that as well. And then he shared a personal story on this. But boy, getting a percent of that to the front lines, really tough. I won't mention where I first learned it in the hard way, because that probably will get me in trouble. But, that's, like you said, Miguel, like, they do it with the heart, then they get the processes in place. But if they do it for the money, now we're back on, it's a tough little dance. So I like that in the diversity. I like to see how the players, the people that are contributing, they can live outside of it. Like, I learned that for one of my staff members. He was a pastor, and he told me his number one goal was not to take money from the church. He's like, well, that's how I survive. Like, we pass that plate around, a piece of that's coming to me so I can eat. I was like, okay. He goes, but I don't want to have to do that. And then it just hit me. I was like, how freeing would it be for a person to genuinely let go of what I call the commission breath, because now they can be totally detached. Because I know if you really need it, you want it, and wantness is a form of weakness. Because your brain, if you're like manifesting something into existence, if you're manifesting in more wanting, you can never have a thing, because then you won't be in the state of wanting. So you're always, and everyone's like, well, you didn't manifest right. Well, there's no such thing. You're always manifesting. There's no such thing as you don't. It didn't not work. It worked perfectly, and just in a dysfunctional manner that you saw it. So if you had one little dream, let's end on this. If you had one little magic wand dream you'd like to bring into 2023, what would that be? Let's go back into like childlike state. That's what Elon Musk told one of my clients through the woman he was trying to recruit away. It was really nice. I'm trying to recruit you away from this company, but I'll give you advice just in case you stay with them, which was money. They were acting like money's an issue. You don't understand any money mean money. And Elon said, no, you got to be like a child, like who's in the sandbox. They just take that rocket ship and they take it to outer space. And they just do that. And they don't see the limitation around money. Money is everywhere. There's an abundance of it. It's not the lack of the resources, the lack of resourcefulness to go tap into it. So allow yourself to be like a child. And then he went and told the story how they were trying to actually draw and design the rocket ship that can make it. And they kept crashing and burning. I don't know if you remember, this is over a decade ago, but they kept just crashing, kept blowing up, and they told the story that the one that worked, literally a child drew. It was literally a child, originated from a child's drawing that made it to space. So going back to that dream state, George, I'll start with you and go to Rod and Miguel. What's the dream? What do you got for 2023? If like you can pull the genie out of the bottle, I got 3 wishes here. I got one for Rod, one for Miguel, one for George. What are you guys asking for?
I want to bring quantum neurology to the level where it deserves to be. The value that we have and create for doctors and their ability to help people, to be able to transfer that value to others so that they could line up for what we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feeling there. I feel that if we turn on the sales side of this and we crack the code, we could 10x plus within the next year and a half. That's my feeling. It's like, we made it 20 years without it, and that's a miracle in and of itself. So if we start doing things correctly, I just see wonderful things coming.
Anyone can stay in business 20 years when they're trading dollars for hours and they own a job and they're the best in the world at it, but fails to make the owner rich, and it fails to make a change at a global, at a scale level. Here's the 50.
Yeah, and then it would definitely scale the change in the world of healing.
Yeah.
When we do this too, the financial benefits are a side effect of what's actually happening in the world through the doctors changing people's lives. We had our homecoming this year. We had a doctor who took a friend who had a T9 spinal cord injury and had her walk out of the hospital 21 days later.
Wow.
Without any assistance.
Wow.
It's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
3 weeks.
Yeah, in 3 weeks. And how do we tell everybody about this in a reasonable way that 20 seconds on TikTok or on Facebook or whatever it is doesn't compare to how big this is. And I feel like you could make a nice little TikTok or something video, but we need more connectivity to somebody that's going to pull the trigger on a $5,000 to $10,000 sale.
Yeah, there's that leap. So we got a bunch of things to help with that. First thing, what I'm going to invite you to do is a little clarity around the vision would be great. Because when we asked you for it, it was full of like ambiguous niceties, like, more isms, bigger good enoughs. Like that's so vague. It's kind of hard. Like if you just, I'm envisioning my daughter when she's painting, like that, like what you described was you had black and white. If you can get at least add the primary colors to your palette, I'm not even saying mixing them yet. Just at least get the primary colors on there, and then go back and repaint that vision.
Okay.
It's going to be amazing what clarity can bring, because you're never going to hit a thing if you don't know what it is, if it's not clear enough, right?
I've always had the problem with that. People have asked me, "Oh, what do you want?" I'm like, I want to train every doctor in the world and how to do this. And
Well,
that
that's a lot
doesn't,
different than to where it deserves to be. Well,
right,
then how many doctors? It's like if you, and you don't even, it's not even the who. See, it's because it sounds like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth, and you and I get a pleasure of covering that in detail in future sessions together. But I'll just leave you with the clarity, like taking some time. So if you learn auditorily, how do you like to communicate? How do you like to communicate? What's your communication style? What's your preferred method?
I guess speech.
Speech?
Yeah.
All right.
So,
So then speak it, listen to yourself, and you're going to be like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. And then say it again. And
okay.
then say it again. And every time you do that, do it in threes. Because what you'll do is you'll say a bunch of shit like what you just said, and you hear it and you go, oh, what I meant to say was, and then you hear it again. And by the third time, boom.
Right.
And you watch everyone's going to be like, whoa. So do those in threes and you'll get great clarity.
I'll do that.
Yeah, it could be a life change, because if that's how you communicate is auditorily, and the way you learn is listen. So listen to yourself back and just do that in threes.
We'll do it.
Yeah, very powerful. How about you, Miguel? What's the you got a magic wand? What do you want to pull out for 2023?
Well, continuing to make an impact with both students, occasional faculty, and occasional business owners that I interface with. I sit on 2 boards in addition to what I do here. The Chamber of Commerce board, second largest in San Diego County. And I get extreme pleasure out of being of service.
Yeah.
So to the degree that I can continue to make that impact in the area of personal development. See, most people don't know. We go through a process. We ask our students to develop IDPs, individual development plan. And that plan asks a series of questions, which starts with values and ends with quote unquote goals. And then we ask them to work backwards in the course of that 13-week dialogue. And what I find fascinating in the original conversations is that students, which also means working adults, just can't answer the question of give me your top 3 strengths. They haven't been involved at that level of discussion well enough to identify their strengths. And then I help them with that. And
But they could probably tell you the weaknesses really fast, can't they?
Well, they speak in weakness terms.
Yeah.
All right. They're very debilitating terminology, which I call an immediate pause, timeout.
Yeah.
I throw the yellow flag in football and I say, timeout, penalty. We can't go down that route.
That's the opposite direction of what we're asking for.
But that's the way they're trained. They think that way. They use disempowering languaging.
That's how they got to their A 4.0, right? Right. Just go back to that.
So if I can continue to do more of that on a leverageable basis, it's a W for me. It's a win for me.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Well, I'm thinking of one of our teammates. He said something very similar to what you had, and I was and on a private level. So I'm just bringing it up. I'm curious if it's any relevant. Maybe we can talk later. Was what do you need? Because he was saying what he desires, right? And sometimes there's this like yin yang, and there's an anchor just holding someone back. And for him, it was really small. It's like an extra $100,000. I was like, oh, okay. So you can, like, if we just get that covered, then you're free to do whatever the hell you want. Because then your wifey's not sweating the house and the bill and then that, like that, right? And it was a bit of just that. And I found that interesting because all he said he wanted out of an exchange was to make $100,000. I said, well, if we can help you get over that, can then we allow you to tap into true contribution? Because now there's no, what I call that commission breath. What I found in the not-for-profit is when someone needs a thing for it to work, then they're screwing the thing up. But if you can be completely detached from the outcome. You can play full out and then not care. Oh, you don't like the truth? Okay. It is what it is. Like, it's just fine. I won't, and the reason I tell you that story is when he was able to get past that $100,000 thing, he 10x'd what he ultimately desired. So he never even considered an extra $1 million. It just, I think there's something about, I don't know, I'm going to call it grace. You call it whatever you want. There's some kind of divine wind in your sails that show up when you're in true contribution to others. And when you can eliminate this conscious and often unconscious desires of I needs and I wants that were put in there, usually from, remember that experience you had that you called a limitation. If you can cut those loose, when you can live past that, it's truly free. And then grace shows up and things show up at a much greater rate than you ever thought possible. So on a personal level, I'm going to see what we can do to help you reach that state of pure contribution, because no one's ever more fulfilled, right? It's a very enlightening place to be in pure contribution. Just think of the last time you served, right?
Yep,
last time you truly gave without not wanting a thing in return. It's very powerful. I don't know about those TikTokers George talking about, but it's becoming very popular to have everyone post up, look what I did for this broke person. I'm like, oh, last time I checked, that was a sin. So based on depending on what books you like to read, I'm like, yeah, no, that's all for the wrong reason. That's all for you and your ego, man. That had nothing to do with the person, right? So Rod, what's yours? What's your dream you got for 2023? What do you want to have to come to fruition?
Well, from a business point of view, I'm, if you will, deconstructing our primary product. This is very complex, and breaking it into modules and putting it actually in a different company.
Yeah.
Because the nature, we serve the broker-dealer industry, and finding good staff is just becoming, like finding hen's teeth. And if we really can't automate the whole thing, if we do the whole package we currently sell, because it takes
hence the modules.
Takes too much TLC. Whereas in the modules, like just on the commission side, we can get into 98, 99% automation. Hit the button, you're done. Your sales reps have taken their volume for the week. They got paid. You don't have to worry about it. Then when you want to go to the more complex side, that's a different module. They can look at each other, but they're not in the same house. And again, we can automate a big chunk of it, but we can also, because it's only one piece, the manual intervention can be simplified and made more direct. And then it's like, look, you either do the deed or you don't. Right now, because it's all tied together, when someone screws up one area, they put at risk paying the sales reps this week. And you can get by maybe with a little delay on paying a rep, but you can't get by for a week or two.
Are you envisioning, I'm just kind of checking out, is this with an intent to sell the divisions independently? Like, do you have copywritten or trademarks or patents on any of this stuff? Or
trademarks on it, but we'll actually be taking what we've carried for years in our core product, because we've proven it. It's time tested.
Yeah.
But take that module out and set it in this other company, automate it. And really, one of my main factors, Ted, and I think you know this, I've got 3 employees who've been with me for 25 years, and I don't know that they can earn 50%, maybe not even 35% of what I pay them. They're 55 and 56. I'm 67. I have other things I like to do.
Yeah. And it's time to pull the page out of George's book, get the intellectual property out of everyone's head and get them out into your processes.
Yeah. And the core is take care of the clients we have, they pay the bills, but I won't allow a new client to come on board on our main product.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to staff up with everything I would need to make it a good experience and train them and get them up and running. They're not, the potential client is frankly not in a good position to put the right players on the field to get it done in the first place.
Yeah.
I would say 70 to 80% of the people running my system around the country are in their 50s and 60s. They're the go-tos. They're almost always a woman. They almost always are very detailed on the Myers-Briggs. They're the SJs. All 10 boxes get checked off. They do care if it balances. They do care how it turns out. They'll work late if they
Yeah.
need to. Try that on now. It just doesn't work in the current labor pool.
Yep. Said very well. You're right. Good luck on that. And yet they're there because they are so freakishly unique. That does give you a competitive advantage to be able to recruit them if you ever write ads that speak to them. I love that process of doing it. I think it could really, you could find a way to get to those people real fast. Even the people that have tested, like Anthony runs a whole company that does Myers-Briggs testing. Then all the SJs are in his database that have ever done that test. I wonder if you've ever asked to run ads to just the SJs for your jobs. Anyhow, random little quick fix. I was just like, hit me up if you need that connection. The Anthony, I don't know how big his database is, but several 100,000 people taking a test, you might score.
Well, and going over to what Miguel said, people talking about their weaknesses, the Myers-Briggs I use is that interkinetics with Ray Lincoln.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is you don't have weaknesses. You just either misuse, don't use, or overuse your strengths. So now the detailed SJ becomes the
you quoted his quote very well. Can you say that again?
You don't have weaknesses. You're either overusing, misusing, or not using your strengths.
Well put.
So like the SJ, very tidy, everything's orderly, but all of a sudden they become the rules Nazi dictating to everyone else how they should live.
Yeah.
They overuse their strength.
Said really well. Who is that you quoted?
Ray Lincoln.
Nice.
He's the guy behind interkinetics.
Yeah. Super nice. I love this. I'm so grateful for all of you guys coming together, sharing these dreams and visions, what you've got for your life and your business in next year. This is a pleasure for me. I like to do it. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. I'm going to put a lot of effort around marketing this. So this is going to change. You're going to see, 3 times as many people on these here in the near future. So it'll become what it is designed to do. But, especially Rod and all of you guys that have been here. Thanks for helping me formulate this in 2020 so it can be what it needs to be, or 2022 so it can be what it needs to be in 23. You guys have been really helpful as I'm testing out new thoughts and ideas. It's been fantastic. So look forward to seeing you. By the way, next week I will be doing this. Next week is the 28th. If you guys are out and about, God bless you. Just know I will be here ready to rock and roll, and we're advertising for it right now. So, all right, I'll see you guys next time.
Hey, God willing, see you next week. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Guys.
Blessings.
Ted, can I have a minute offline, please?
Say that again?
Can I have a minute offline?
Yeah, sure.